Do you know which Chief Justice this is? I'll bet that you don't. This is our 16th Chief Justice, William Rehnquist, who is remembered as one of the most successful Chief Justices of the Supreme Court. Rehnquist was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1924 to William Benjamin Rehnquist, a conservative Republican that was a sales manager for a printing equipment and paper sales office. His mother was Marjorie Peck Rehnquist, who was a director for a small insurance company and a local civic activist. Rehnquist's education began at Shorewood High School, and then he briefly attended Kenyon College, eventually went to Stanford University and Harvard University. Rehnquist briefly attended Kenyon College for one semester before joining the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II, where he never saw any combat action. After attending Kenyon College, he then attended Stanford University, where he received a Bachelor of Arts and a Master of Arts in Political Science. After Stanford University, he then attended Harvard University, where he received another Master of Arts in Government. Eventually, he returned to Stanford and graduated from the Stanford Law School. While at Stanford Law School, he met Sandra Day O'Connor, who would later serve on the Supreme Court with him, and during their time at Stanford, they briefly dated. Rehnquist began his law career as a clerk for Robert Jackson, a moderate on the U.S. Supreme Court, and eventually moved to Phoenix, Arizona to begin a private practice. When Richard Nixon won the presidency in 1968, Rehnquist moved back to Washington, D.C. to serve as a Deputy Attorney General for the U.S. Justice Department. Nixon eventually nominated him as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. In 1986, when Chief Justice Warren Burger retired, Ronald Reagan named Rehnquist as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Some of the landmark cases Rehnquist ruled on were Roe v. Wade, Texas v. Johnson, and Kelo v. City of New London. In Roe v. Wade, he wrote a dissenting opinion on the majority decision to make abortion legal. In Texas v. Johnson, he wrote a dissenting opinion on the court ruling allowing flag burning being protected by the First Amendment. And in Kelo v. City of New London, he wrote a dissenting opinion that allows local governments to force property owners to sell their properties to make way for private economic development that will increase property taxes. This was a violation of Fifth Amendment protection of eminent domain. During World War II, he was stationed in North Africa as a weather observer. As a clerk, he encouraged Associate Justice Robert Jackson to support overturning Plessy v. Ferguson and support the concept of separate but equal. He was often referred to as the Lone Ranger because of his tendency to be on the opposite side of the majority in Supreme Court decisions. After 33 years' service in the Supreme Court, Rehnquist was diagnosed with thyroid cancer but refused to retire and remained Chief Justice until his death in September 2005.
Miranda versus Arizona, rights of the accused. Ernesto Miranda was a laborer whose conviction on kidnapping, rape, and armed robbery charges, based on his confession under police interrogation, was set aside in the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case Miranda versus Arizona. In Miranda versus Arizona, Ernesto Miranda accused the court of not informing him of his Fifth Amendment rights. The court had not informed Miranda of his right before he pled guilty. At the second trial, his confession was not introduced into evidence, but he was convicted again. He was sentenced to 20 to 30 years in prison. The Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination requires law enforcement officials to advise a suspect interrogated into custody of his or her rights to remain silent and to retain an attorney.